Welcome to the Low Carb USA podcast, where we seek to inspire you to help us build this community. I'm Doug Reynolds.
And this is Pam Devine.
Last week we talked with Dr. Robert Cywes about the vegan diet and whether or not we could do a ketogenic version of that and have it be sustainable. This week we take that discussion a little bit further now and take a look at the vegetarian diet and how that can differ from the vegan diet and whether there's a way that that can be more sustainable than the vegan diet.
So what is an option? What is an option, Doug? And I'm totally fine with supplemented vegetarian diet. So when I say the supplemented vegetarian diet, I'm not talking about GNC supplements. I'm talking about a vegetarian diet. And if you have issues with eating animals, perhaps you don't have issues with eating what I call sustainable animal products. In other words, animal products that come from animals without leading to the death of the animal. And what are we talking about? We're talking about eggs. We're talking about cheese and dairy products. And if you're able to augment your diet with those two things, you are achieving all the supplementation of the fatty acids, of the full amino acids, and some of the micronutrients to satisfy all the deficiencies of the pure vegan diet. If you want to eat some honey, and I'm not a huge fan of honey because of the sugar content, but certainly honey, eggs, cheese, cream, milk, those products, when added to a vegetarian diet, don't cause the death of any animals. In fact, well, I'm not going to go into the emotive side, but they don't cause the death of the animals, but they have adequate nutrient supplementation without consuming human-made supplements. So it is absolutely fine to survive on that diet. Now in America, we can't eat yogurt, well, we shouldn't be eating the yogurt on the shelves because it's deficient in fat and it's very high in sugar. But elsewhere in the world, you can eat real yogurt, not the crap that they have on American shelves. You can eat the full cream and the double cream yogurts that they serve elsewhere outside of this country. And that's also an excellent source of renewable food for vegetarians. In other words, where the animal didn't die. So let's take it one step further toward the carnivorous side. If a vegetarian is comfortable adding fish to their diet, that's about as comprehensive as you can possibly be. If you're comfortable adding fish and seafood from time to time to your diet, that is a diet of comprehensive adequacy. And from a ketogenic perspective, you can survive very, very well. You can live a very good, long life if you're adding nuts and seeds, if you're adding the avocado oil, the coconut oil, the olive oils, if you're adding the oils as fat and you're adding them to your vegetables, and you're getting some of the protein, vegetable, mineral mixes from your eggs, from your dairy products, and from fish, it is about as comprehensive an omnivorous diet as you can get. Now let's shift across. We've already had the carnivore discussion. But the more animal products you can introduce into your diet, the shorter and the less often you have to eat. So you're getting a bigger bang for your buck on the carnivorous side or on the more carnivorous side so that you can get out and do other things. Remember, the background essential of what I'm talking about here is maintaining a ketogenic diet. In other words, a carb-free diet. And we've done lots of podcasts on the carbohydrate-free diet. The final comment I'm going to make, Doug, is recently a paper came out. It was a meta-analysis essentially saying that it's okay to eat red meat. Duh. We've known that since we were a species. Since we stopped having a vegetarian intestine, it's always been okay to eat red meat. Red meat doesn't harm us, whether it's the protein or the fat. It doesn't harm us. In fact, it's essential to human survival, the products that are in that red meat. So how can something be essential to us and yet be trying to kill us? It's like saying the water that we drink is trying to kill us. No, the water isn't. It may have lead and other things in it that's trying to kill us, but no, it doesn't. It isn't. And for people to stand on their soapbox and say, this science is wrong, this science is wrong, they're just not looking at the data. They're having an emotional breakdown because their strong belief used to be that red meat was somehow causing harm. The evidence is just not there. Whether you eat red meat or not, I don't mind. But don't ever use illness or disease from red meat as a reason you don't eat it. If you choose not to eat it, no issue. But don't use emotive arguments about red meat or tell me that it's dangerous for human beings to eat. The most successful hunter-gatherer societies that have lived through the farming revolution, through the industrial revolution, into the computer revolution, have subsisted and survived because of red meat. The most successful hunter-gatherer societies who were not under pressure to change primarily eat red meat. From the Eskimos to the native Indians, to the Mongolians, to the Maoris, to the Aborigines, to the Bushmen. And I'm sure there are others. So I hope that this brief discussion, and I didn't mean only to focus on the vegan diet, but I've really tried, Doug. I've really, really tried. And I haven't been able to come up with a vegan diet that doesn't include any animal products that results in biologic, healthy sustainability. Listen, I don't know everything. I'd be happy to go toe-to-toe with someone, not in an argumentative way, but educate me. Bring it to the table. Educate me. And maybe I am ignorant because I didn't know what Tempe was. I thought it was a place on the west coast of Florida. I had no idea, okay? So, I grew up in the world, Tempe didn't really exist. And, educate me. But all the research I've done, whether it is scientific research or lay research outlining ketogenic vegan diets, I just haven't found any. And remember, we're specifically talking about ketogenic diets that are sustainable without artificial supplementation. Just can't do it. Sorry.
Okay, and there you have it.
Is that reasonable?
Yeah, I think it's different to what I was expecting, but I think it's topical because, like right now, with what's going on with that report with the Annals of is it the Annals of Medicine or something?
Yeah, the meat paper.
Yeah. But I put out something that kind of basically got ignored because everybody's using that to defend the meat argument. But if you read that article carefully and you read the wording, that guy or those people that wrote it actually still believe that meat's bad.
Right.
And what they
did it to prove that meat was bad.
At least what they were saying, they were at least being honest. They were saying, if we look at the evidence that's there, it's not telling us that it's bad. So
that's exactly it.
So really what we need to do is find some evidence that shows that it's bad. But what we can do in the meantime, and that very last paragraph, read the last paragraph.
Yeah, I have. I've got the whole article.
Okay, the last paragraph says, so what we need to focus on is the ethical and the religious arguments. And
that's why I specifically said what I said
sway people with those arguments, and then we'll have the benefit of them being healthy by not eating meat. But we're not arguing with them about not eating meat because it's bad for them. We're telling them because they're killing the planet. Right. And
exactly right. It was an emotive argument.
Yeah. So everybody was like, oh, yay, these guys are supporting meat. But they weren't actually.
They weren't.
They were actually, they were at least being honest as scientists.
Right.
But they still are saying, we need to stop people eating meat. So let's sit with the religious and the ethical arguments for now and the climate change articles for things for now. And now we can keep trying to find some real evidence that shows that it's doing this, because the stuff we've got now doesn't show it.
And that's so a couple of you are so correct. And most people knee-jerked when they saw the headline. They didn't go back and read the whole article.
Yeah.
I've done that. But a couple of things. First of all, it is not new science. This is a meta-analysis. It took all the reasonable studies on meat.
Right.
And they didn't say red meat is healthy. They said in the studies that were done, we could not find evidence that it was harmful.
Right.
Okay. And that was shit.
At least they were honest about it, because if you listen to the way they're talking, they really do believe that it's bad.
Right. Well, they did it to try to find they try to put a whole bunch of articles together.
Yeah. It's going to prove their
bad. To give greater strength to the fact that red meat is bad. And the problem is they couldn't.
Exactly.
It's exactly the same argument that they make with low-fat versus low-carbohydrate diets. They can't find evidence that a low carbohydrate diet is bad. But so all the big studies that were done with low fat all showed that the best people were the low carb people, the people that were the healthiest were the low carb people. But it's a meta-analysis of the low carbohydrate diet isn't bad, but they haven't gone so far as to say therefore it is healthy. Right. Same with these guys.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, well, our belief is, our hypothesis is the red meat is bad. Shit, there's no evidence. When we look at all the evidence, there's no evidence. But we still believe it's bad, and therefore we have to say it's bad.
Yeah. I put it out there. I got about 5 people that liked it, and it just got basically ignored. But
yeah. But that's what, because it was the knee jerk for the headline. It became a headline.
Everybody was like ecstatic that these people had finally come and shown us that meat is not bad. But they, in a way, they did by saying at least it is bad, but we couldn't find any evidence to prove it.
Yeah, we still believe it's bad, but we just haven't been able to show
so let's stop people eating it by appealing to their ethical, religious, and ecological side, and until we can find scientific proof that it's bad.
Yeah, it's a little bit like saying, you know what, parachutes are probably a good idea, but we have no evidence that they are. But we still believe they are. I mean, it's just that. We haven't done the double-blind study of tossing people out of an airplane with or without parachutes. But anyway, it's just, and then on top of that, you got all this veganism coming out. But they will self-destruct. I mean, we see that over and over and over and over again, and that's why I mentioned again the autism and the brain, because that's the part you can't quantify. There are a lot of vegans out there that look nice and skinny, but they look like shit.
Did you hear about Ken Berry?
His house.
Yeah.
So
now his practice burned down 7 months ago. Right.
I know, and that's when Janae told me that, she told me that this morning, and I said, "Wow, that raises questions."
Oh yeah. So what's worse though is that I'm not. It doesn't raise questions. It's absolutely somebody screwing somebody's. Yeah, well, they did an investigation, and they couldn't find any evidence apparently. And I don't know if they're just not telling because there's the thing's still ongoing. When they investigated his practice, the house they haven't even started, or they've just started.
It's just happened. Yeah.
No, but so with the practice, they said that they couldn't find any evidence. Or that was a story that came out, was that they couldn't find any evidence of any
wrongdoing,
foul play. But now that this has happened, and I mean, they were in Nashville,
right,
because it's just before the birth, and they've got some special procedures.
Oh, so they weren't in their own.
They weren't in the house. No, they weren't there. But there's absolutely, in my opinion, there's absolutely no question that was set, and so. I'm going to try and find it here quickly for you.
Janae showed me that this morning, and I was very concerned about that.
Ivor Cummins posted something today. So the Fat Emperor, there's a guy called Kevin Bass. Okay.
I don't know him over. I don't know him.
So he's Ivor retweeted this stuff. Someone tweeted, okay, so this is unbelievable. Ken Berry's had his clinic burned down 7 months ago, and now his house. And this guy retweets it with a comment on that says, evidence that a good and just God might exist after all.
Jeez.
And then another tweet down here, he says, Ken Berry lies to people about health for a living. This is morally inexcusable and should be a felony offense.
Wow.
I will not be satisfied until he is in a prison cell. Medical misinformation is murder.
Wow.
If this makes you mad to read, unfollow. I don't want to hear your opinion.
Jeez.
What kind of address is this? Huh?
Shit. You may disagree with him, but hell.
That's just, it's incredible.
The problem is there are religious zealots that are vegan. The Seventh-day Adventists.
Right. That's what Belinda and Gary Fettke's whole thing is all about now. Is unearthing the real grassroots of this whole anti-meat thing completely. It's all stems from back in the 1800s already, like, you know,
Yeah.
late 1800s. And it's, and the influence that they have, you know, because up until I met them a year and a half ago, it was like everything was about, it was all Ansel Keys' fault, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, if you think about it, how did he end up having those opinions? So it started, it wasn't Ansel Keys that
Well, the Kellogg brothers, you know,
right.
Robert Kellogg was a doctor, and he ran a nutritional sanatorium in Michigan, and he also believed in a plant-based diet at that time.
That's where it goes all back to, and it's
Right.
all backed by the Seventh-day Adventists, where they actually believe that it causes impure thoughts and.
But you know, Doug, there is a little bit of a foundation for at least being more vegetarian in those days. For example, the Jews don't eat a lot of, from 2,000 years ago, they don't eat a lot of foods that were associated with bacteria that they couldn't kill. So there was a higher mortality rate of people that ate pigs that were, you know, slopping around in human shit and that kind of thing. And, you know, sea fish or seafood that was living off human shit. There was a higher mortality. So that was a smart thing to do. And some of the history of this, it is fairly smart to not eat domesticated animals if you can't combat their disease.
Yeah, but their argument.
But now we can.
Yeah, but worse than that, though, is that their argument is not that this is unhealthy, you know, that meat's unhealthy, and now we understand why it was unhealthy.
It's religious.
It's that it's like it causes impure thoughts, and it causes men to masturbate and stuff like that, and that's a terrible sin, and that's why you mustn't eat meat. That is and even today, that is their argument.
Yeah, there's some very, very weird,
but
you know, kind of immature kind of stuff.
Freaking millions of them. It's not like just a lunatic fringe.
No, there's a lot of them.
There's a shitload of them.
Especially in this country.
And you hear Belinda talking about, you know, the numbers of food manufacturing places that they own, and universities that they, and like, so they can funnel all their beliefs into the teaching at all these universities and schools, and it's like hundreds and hundreds of them.
Well, if you look at Noom, you know this Noom, Noom?
The thing about this Noom is they say they're a psychological approach. They sounded very similar to the type of work that I do. But then what happened is, when I researched them a bit more, they're basically taking people stepwise to a vegan diet.
Yeah.
And, you know, their entire philosophy is vegan.
And that's certainly not what you're about.
That's not what it's not kind of what I'm about. So, but they do it very, very well. They do it very subtly. But if you look at the photographs, they say you can eat what you want to, but they progressively tell you that the vegetarian way of life is the best way to go.
Lasting weight loss. Great. Yeah.
You see it there? And they have, their first round was $160 million of funding. Their sixth round now just earned them $50 million. They're a massive organization. These guys have got $500 million invested, and they're basically trying to rival Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers and that kind of thing. They establishing themselves. They're on the radio, they're on TV, they're in print ads, they're everywhere. And this is what they do. So yeah, that's another battlefront, and they're very subtle. They're so slick about talking about psychology, and then just sliding you into the vegan way of life. Quite incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing. You've been listening to an episode of the Low Carb USA podcast. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/lowcarbusa.